busy of a week as I had on emergency last week, I was very lucky that I did not get called out in this because I did not want to brave these roads at all. That aside, talk about cold weather care for your horses, because this would be the definition relevant now. I cannot, it bears repeating over and over and over again. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to keep your horses drinking in this weather. You have several problems that compound together to decrease your horse's water consumption. The first being a little bit of human error. People don't always check their water troughs because they think because there's a heater, and I get lazy too. That's not accusatory, but you think just because there's a heat go, the water's melted, there's no problems. I have treated conflicts that occurred when the owner realized that the heater had shorted out, and every time her horses went to drink, they were met with a shock. So they just quit drinking. This happens. The heaters break, and the water freezes, and then you're left with a sheet of ice. And if you don't physically check on that heater to make sure that it's doing its job, well, you end up with a block of ice instead of a fresh water source for your horses. And when you have water freeze like that, sometimes your troughs bust. Water expands when it freezes. Buckets and troughs, they form holes in them, and then they drain out, and that's no good either. So there are lots of things that could go wrong there that could deprive your horses of water. So it is really, really important to check their water sources to make sure that your heaters are working, that you're using, or to physically water them on a day-to-day basis. And the other problem that we run into with water consumption is they don't want to drink. I mean, and who can blame them, to be honest? Nobody wants to take a big old slug of ice water on a day. They're no exception. It lowers their internal body temperature, and they're already cold. Nobody wants to do that. So, trying to give them access, they should have access to fresh water at all times, but periodically offering them warm water once or twice a day, great idea. Get a bucket of water from your house that's nice and warm and steaming hot, and offer that to them. A lot of the times they'll drink that right down because it's nice and it's pleasant, and what they have on the pasture is cold. Something else that I will commonly do, I feed my horses soaked alfalfa cubes. I probably don't need to, but it is a nice way to get fluid in them. So in order to eat the alfalfa, they have to eat the water along with it, and so it's just kind of a little bit of extra water when they're not inclined to drink as much. I know that they're at least getting the water that I put in to dissolve the cubes. Slow down through here. I don't put electrolytes or salt in water. I do see that little hint passed around. Yes, we're the freezing point of water. However, what can happen is your horse can decide he don't like the taste of that and not drink, and that, as you might imagine, that might be a problem. If you do that, always offer 2 buckets. Always offer, and always offer. Don't ever force them to drink salt water. I think it's more effective to put the salt on their feed, and you don't have to buy a special electrolyte mix of putting more sodium in their blood to encourage them to drink more, so that they have more fluid in their bowel. And why is that important? Well, when it is cold like this, horses know, they know that forage keeps them warm. So they seek out dry matter. Forage, i.e. they seek out. Why your horses and your cattle eat crazy amounts of hay when it gets cold like this. It ferments in their GI tract, and that fermentation process quite a bit of heat. So it's internal furnace before, and that's a very accurate description. It holds a furnace for them. So they're eating more dry, they're drinking less water, and as you can imagine, that ingesta is going to have a tendency to get dry and thick, stuck in places in